In the War of 1812, Thomas Jefferson is Madison's advisor. And he tells the president that what they need to do is to invade Canada. He argues that there's no need for a trained military if they're going to invade Canada. He doesn't think that Canada has enough resources to fight a U.S. invasion. He does not think that we'll need to involve the Navy. He essentially thinks that it will be relatively easy. He was wrong. The U.S. militia was badly defeated, which was another embarrassment for Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans. So if the Democratic Republicans are looking bad, people are going to cast their support to who? So they do need to get the Navy involved, and a small American Navy gets off to a good start by defeating British ships on Lake Erie. This is the Battle of Lake Erie. However, they still could not conquer Canada. In 1813, William Harrison finally kills Tecumseh in battle. In 1814, Andrew Jackson defeats the Creek Indians of Alabama. And also he defeated the Seminole Indians of Florida. So Andrew Jackson is working in the South to fend off Native Americans. William Harrison is working more in the Northwest Ohio area. So in 1814, Napoleon is finally defeated by the British, and British troops are free to fight in the U.S. This is crucial, because if you think about it, Britain had been split. Part of their forces were focused on battling Napoleon, part of them were focused on battling the U.S. So once they had defeated Napoleon, they were available to come and fight in the United States. I love this picture of Napoleon. He just looks so incredibly defeated and angry. A great painting. So once the British are available to fight wholeheartedly in the United States, the British sends its Navy to attack in various points along the eastern seacoast, including Maine, New York, Maryland, and Louisiana. However, except for Maine, the U.S. manages to defeat the British in every battle. They did lose in Maine, but in all the other battles, the United States came out the winner. The American Navy beat the British also on Lake Champlain near Plattsburgh, New York. The British, when they invaded in Maryland, right around Baltimore, they came in and attacked Fort McHenry. This is where Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner. He wrote that as he watched the British attack Fort McHenry in Baltimore. The British did manage to burn down the White House in Washington, as well as the Capitol. The Treaty of Ghent was the treaty that ended the War of 1812. So the U.S. was successful in a number of naval battles along the East Coast. And then in 1814, on Christmas Eve, the U.S. and the British signed the Treaty of Ghent. In 1850, however, so just after the new year started, Andrew Jackson was fighting the Battle of New Orleans. Think about this for a minute. This is after the Treaty of Ghent has already been signed, ending the war. Why would this have been the case? Why would they still be fighting if a treaty has already been signed? So in the Battle of New Orleans, the Americans crushed the British. It ended up being, I think, 71 deaths on the U.S. side, and over 2,000 deaths on the British side. So it was an overwhelming defeat by the United States. Results of the war: there was a surge of nationalism, of extreme pride in the United States. The war showed that the U.S. had grit, strength, and persistence and could really thrive as a nation. Also, the Federalists lost some credit with the public because they had opposed the war. They felt like it wasn't a good thing. We weren't strong enough to engage in another war with the British. And because of this, they kind of lose face. In December of 1814, just before the Treaty of Ghent was signed, the Federalists of the New England states had met in Hartford. They were kind of disgusted with the war and were actually considering seceding or breaking away from the rest of the United States. And mind you, this is before the war had ended, before the treaty had been signed. And basically, they wanted the government to add some constitutional amendments that would strengthen them, strengthen the North. But as soon as the news of the Treaty of Ghent and Jackson's victory came, of course the Federalists were kind of embarrassed. They felt that their arguments were kind of proved wrong, were no longer valid, and they were seen as traitors. So this is another blow to the Federalist Party. So now we have the Native Americans who have been subdued. Andrew Jackson played a large part in that. Also Governor Harrison defeating the Native Americans and making it so that settlers could move into the southern and western states, including Indiana, Mississippi, Illinois, Alabama. They were annexed as new states. And next we're going to talk about Manifest Destiny and the expansion of the United States in a little bit more detail. Okay, but that's it for now. That was the War of 1812. Please don't forget to write your question at the end of your notes. Alrighty, I look forward to seeing you in class.